So I've been listening to a voice note here a short while ago. Someone forwarded it to me. This person says, Unomvalo has never led anywhere. He was parachuted. And he says a lot of nothing, and is making other accusations, which are neither here nor there. The truth of the matter is that the revolution, even before 1994, was championed by professionals.
Yes.
And the masses on the ground.
Yes.
Even the formation of the former liberation movement, Dr. Pixley Kaisarasem was a lawyer. Others were, church leaders.
Yes.
There was a combination of different skills. Politics have been hijacked by opportunists who perceive politics as a career. And once they get into a responsibility, a political responsibility, they gatekeep. If you attack a policeman who chose to be brave, went to the media to expose the rot, you are not different from those who do not protect with whistleblowers.
Umuntu uthi lapha hayi no Shivambu unobhale waqoshwa waqala kanje nalo usendleleni kahlala isikhathi eside. Is it a fair comparison, first and foremost, to compare you with umfowethu Floyd Shivambu?
No. It's not a fair comparison. Look, Floyd is arrogant, that's number one. Number two, he's full of himself. It's even difficult for him to greet people. He's not a good character for the MK party. And I thought some EFF members
were exaggerating.
When he left, they were celebrating literally.
In a literal sense, yeah.
They were saying, guys, thanks for taking this man, but you will regret within a month.
Thank you very much. Igama lami ngingubonga Nkosi wakaKhanyile. Bathi mina unqaka kupandela umshini isikhafulagazi into engalala umadubule gijima shunqu ushemula. Bathi 2x2, 4x4, 5x5 ngeke ngayala mina ngaqosha imanje enkantolo. Namhlanje ngihamba nonobhala kazwelonke. Ngithi nje angibingelele enhla nenzansi. Nginibingelele ngokukhulu kuyithoba sizoxoxa nje. But also I think everyone who's currently watching at home, this is the year of elections. Let's remember to register to vote, and when we vote, we must make an educated vote, which is a vote of Umkhonto weSizwe. Welcome to the open discussion, the MK podcast. We are here with the Secretary General of Umkhonto weSizwe, Ubaba, uComrade Lam, Ubaba uNomvalo. Baba.
Ngwane.
Yeah, siyakubingelela.
Kunjani mfowethu?
Hayi, siyaphila.
Ngumuntu emandi. Ngingumqabaqaba kweGqabile Vinika, atsho kanjalo. Kushiwo kanjalo eStern Cape.
Umqabaqaba iGqabile Vinika. Ukhuluma nje izwe libheke phansi eStern Cape. Ngicathi ababukeli bazokwazi emakhaya. Kuthiwa kunenkosi esibekile esuka ngokuzalwa isuka eNigeria. Yafike eStern Cape edolobheni eEast London. Yahlanganisa abantu ehotela, yathi siyayigcoba njengenkosi yamaNigeria ase-Eastern Cape. Uthini nobhala?
No, that is very terrible. It's a terrible scenario to witness because this country has got its own history that we must always protect. And as revolutionaries, we must be worried about how the grievance was addressed by the civilians who gathered there to protest. And I heard some political parties lamenting. You see, when the revolution is not properly guided, the masses are going to guide themselves. And the likelihood is that when they guide themselves, there's going to be anarchy. Because there is no logic that is prevailing over them. People are just driven from a genuine perspective, from a genuine point of view, by the anger which has been triggered by what is happening. So what we saw yesterday is something which is very terrible to be witnessed. It's a sign of people who show a middle finger even to the traditional authorities of this country. You can't just wake up in the morning and declare yourself to be a traditional leader. Because they are original settlers of our land here, and the land belong to the traditional leaders who were born in this country, who've got a particular history in this country, and whose forebears, forefathers, and so on have got a particular history in this country. So it's a terrible thing because it's not different from what we see across the country in our towns, wherein some buildings have been occupied by drug cartels who are foreigners. So it means we will wake up in the morning and be told that we're having a president who comes from Nigeria, and the Nigerians have gathered and have decided to appoint their own president. It's likely to happen if really what we saw yesterday is anything to go by. So we sympathize with all the people who were there, who raised their grievances.
Yes.
It's just that it was a revolution to which political parties have abdicated their responsibility, because when there is no proper coordination, revolutionary coordination, the likelihood is that there will be anarchy. So political parties cannot come after the fact and want to behave as armchair revolutionaries to say, no, that was wrong, and so on and so forth. But where were you when those people were mobilizing themselves? Because you were supposed to be there.
Were your branches?
Yes, correct. In the first place, because those are your constituencies. So, I mean, drunkards will take over. They will provide direction. I'm not saying they were drunkards there, but I'm saying if we allow things to operate like this, there is a vacuum. And nature does not allow a vacuum. Vultures will occupy that vacuum.
No, ngathi iclear kakhulu nobhala. Iclear kakhulu. Lento, if you are saying we need to occupy all spaces, especially the organizations, what does it mean with having a grassroots movement which is rooted in communities? Because I've seen many political organizations outside of MK raising statements as an aftermath. But when you look at the population that was protesting, it's predominantly black people in their majority. And these organizations were black organizations speaking from air-conditioned offices. What does it mean about our grassroots activism and branch-based politics?
Yeah, you see, the truth of the matter is that 1994, the way I always characterize it, to a certain extent, depoliticized our population because of a wrong mindset which it infused in the DNA of South Africa that we have attained total liberation, which is not true. Some people started to distance themselves from the realities of society because they believe, in their view, that they are now in a comfort zone. They perceive themselves as people who have been liberated every day, whereas exploitation is finding expression in many ways, in different ways in our country, and in all sectors. So, ipso facto, people then they started to be disorganized. They are not organized. The only place where you find people organized is a workplace because they are organized by the circumstances. The employer is here. The catastrophic conditions are prevalent. They feel them every day. That is why the work of the unions is very easy, they find an already organized constituency. But with regards to societal politics, people are fragmented because you've got a large group of people who think that we received total liberation in 1994. Now, the result of which branch politics have no substance. That is another factor.
Yeah.
But another aspect is that politics have been hijacked by opportunists who perceive politics as a career. And once they get into a political responsibility, they gatekeep. Yes, they gatekeep others so that they are going to be the ones who are calling the shot. And the unfortunate part is that people who always lead that onslaught are people who don't even have what it takes. They just became crooks, and they mastered the art of takarizing. So they manage to find ways to positions of leadership. When they get there, they gatekeep. And, when a fool is gatekeeping, he compromises the intellectual capacity because he knows that he has no intellectual capacity.
Yes.
So anyone who speaks sense becomes a threat to him. So that is delegitimizing our voice on the ground because the people who are supposed to be part of our activism at the ground level are excluded. Professionals, for instance, teachers, nurses, doctors, lawyers, and so on and so forth. I'm not saying I undermine people, the illiterate, but
yes,
the truth of the matter is that the revolution, even before 1994, was championed by professionals.
Yes.
And the masses on the ground.
Yes.
Even the formation of the former liberation movement, Dr. Pixley Kayisakasem was a lawyer. Others were, church leaders.
Yes.
There was a combination of different skills.
Yes.
So there is that aspect that is leading in our politics. I have high regards for people who are not educated because
yes,
they play a huge impact also in the revolution.
Yes.
But there is this aspect that is lacking, the aspect of professionals who are being excluded from the livelihood of politics in general and from the livelihood of our organizations in particular on the basis that they are a threat to certain individuals who have managed, to parachute themselves
yes,
into positions of leadership. So those are the factors, to me, which are delegitimizing and which are depoliticizing our environment.
No, I think it's much clear, SG. Sizobuya, because I was also in your articulation. When you speak about organized skill set in a form of professionals and so on and so forth, I was also driven to a point of discipline that sometimes you could be not educated.
Correct.
You become an organic intellectual because you don't have a formal education.
Correct.
But your discipline and how you carry yourself put you in a position of leadership. I'll want your comment when we move with our discussion to come back on this point. Let's just park it there because one of the things we have not spoken about is you. In fact, we're supposed to start from you. Yeah. But since you said, you reminded me of what is happening in Eastern Cape, then we just quickly jumped in there. Abakuzokwazi from a far distance bazothi bazi ubaba uNomvalo unonkosikazi omuhla owamposta uvele ngekhanda kubhavu khona ubhavu lokathi uyaduma kathi uvele kancane amahloni kivi ngingakaze kungene lo bhavu lo bazobona unkosikazi ugqoka igawuni impela nobhala emhlophe qwa bazokwazi ubaba uNomvalo ongummeli oyisifundiswa nje impela bazokwazi futhi aphinda beyilunga leParliament kodwa thina esike saba khona emzabalazweni sokwazi ukuthi kahle kahle babona manje bakubona usuphulishekile kanje ngokuba umholi nokuhola abantu, kodwa khona la ukhulele khona. So in a very brief summary, ubani ubaba uNomvalo, ubani unobhala lo esinaye phambi kwethu?
Yeah. No, Ubaba uNomvalo was born in Mzimkhulu, in a village. Mzimkhulu. I come from the dusty streets of Mzimkhulu.
Yes.
So I am a product of my circumstances. So I was born there, and then I did my lower grades there in Mzimkhulu, and I did my high school there as well. So I got exposed to politics during my high school days when I was doing grade 10.
Yeah.
So I was elected, they called it the LRC. It was not the SRC.
LRC, yeah.
Yeah, LRC at the high school level. So because COSAS was not active there in our region.
Yes.
So our politics only ended in a school environment. And then from there, I went to varsity in the Eastern Cape, in the University of Fort Hare, to pursue my LLB studies. So during my second year, I got elected there as the branch chairperson of SASCO. I got elected as the speaker of the institutional parliament.
Yes.
So I remember that we even amended the constitution of the SRC there in Fort Hare. I was leading that as well. And then I was elected into various positions when I was in Samari. When I was there, because I led until I graduated. So from there, I went to do my PLT. PLT is a 6-month program, which you do before you do articles of clerkship. They were called articles of clerkship. Now they are just called articles. So then I went to do my articles in Durban, in a very big black-owned law firm, which has 3 branches in Durban, Pietermaritzburg, and in the Eastern Cape, in Mount Elif. Yeah.
Yes.
So I did my articles there. I got elected in the ANC Youth League upon my arrival back from varsity to my village now.
Yes.
When I was done with my studies, I got elected as the chairperson. I remember we come from the same branch with the late Cindy Somakaka, may his soul rest in peace. So he was yes, he was the chairperson there in that ward before, he became the SG.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
but before he became the SG, he was the deputy chair of the province in KZN of the Youth League.
So nisuka in the same ward now?
Ward. Not even ward, VD.
VD.
Yeah, we come from the same VD.
So the VD has produced its full Secretary General, the one, the later of the Youth League.
Yeah, correct.
The one of MK.
Yes. Even with the town now has produced, or it's currently having 2 secretary generals of the 4 big parties here in South Africa. Marshall Dlamini
is also from the same
Mzimkhulu.
Okay.
Yeah, from the same town. Yeah, and he frequents home. I know over this weekend he will be at home. Yeah, during the Easter holiday. He's always there. We go to the same church with him. And our church is very proud of us. When I'm there, even before I became the SG, when I'm in church, they always recognize me. Oh, this is our member. He's now in parliament.
Yes.
They always give the same recognition to him. So I know even now, because he said we must meet up after church, that he will go home. So
should nami njengoba ngifuna ukuba unobhala kazwelonke kumele ngiyokhotha esontweni
ngitholela isite wami. wasemzimkhulu.
Ngithatha
By
ibusiso.
it's by virtue of being a resident of that town.
It gives potential.
It's a very blessed town.
Yeah.
Even it has produced many people.
Yeah.
Oselbi, Bakwa, the former public protector.
Yeah.
I think the current public protector comes from Mzimkhulu as well.
Mzimkhulu, yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. So then after leading the branch, then I was elected as the chairperson of the sub-region.
Yes.
Mzimkhulu. Then after that, I was elected I went to the PEC of the ANC Youth League in KZN. Then after that, I was the spokesperson of the province of the Youth League in KZN.
KZN, yes.
Yes. Then I was also elected as the chairperson now of the ANC in my branch.
The branch, yes.
Yes. Not of the Youth League now, but of the ANC. So I've been listening to a voice note here a short while ago. Someone forwarded it to me. This person says, Unomvalo has never led anywhere. He was parachuted. And he says a lot of nothing, and is making other accusations, which are neither here nor there.
Not there, yes.
I'm just citing that as a reflection of what you have said, that many people don't know of where I come from. But
many, many who have been constant activists in the country,
correct.
They know.
Yes.
Because I know that one of also the popular sentiment, abanye abasasele kwagogo bayakhala bethi hey kanti nanibambe umuntu onobuchule nobuhlakani omjengophondo.
Yes.
Meaning that by them in your previous political life, gatekeeping you and not giving you a necessary platform to showcase the skills and the potential you possess as an individual, they actually lost out. It has been a popular sentiment on the street. People say that about you.
That is why I'm always grateful to our president, because he just collected us from the dustbins. The ANC buried us. So, and I knew that some of us are not going to last in the ANC because of what it has become. It's a choreographed realm of fools, non-thinkers. So they are very allergic to people with a capacity to think, because those people tell you what is wrong and what is right.
What is right,
Which should not be the case in a political organization, because a political organization is a convergence of ideas. So it requires somebody with a power of persuasion, who says, if I have a strong feeling and I say to you, this is what must happen, and you have got a different perspective, that should not be an issue.
Yes.
I should try by all means to persuade you.
Right.
And if I fail, I fail.
Yes.
Then it means you have defeated me on this particular issue. So that is the problem with our politics generally, is that it has been occupied by fools who can't think properly, want to impose and to take issues with being challenged. Take an issue with being challenged. They view that as a threat. Which should not actually be the case. But let me conclude this one. So after I became the branch head, then in terms of my career, I worked for that company for 2 years, almost 3 years. Then after 2 years, I opened my own law firm.
Law firm, yes.
Yes, in Durban. So which started which grew from one strength to another.
Yes.
Because when I started, many people don't believe when I say I started working at home. Even the laptop I was borrowed by my former boss. And immediately after I established my law firm, I think 2 months after, there was COVID. And there was that thing called the national lockdown.
Lockdown, yes.
So we couldn't do anything. So there was absolutely nothing which was coming in as a financial source.
Yes.
So I started under those circumstances, but one thing I can tell you is that I never looked back, because a decision had already been taken, and there was no option but to stand with that decision under difficult circumstances. So from that law firm, from working from home, I then, when the lockdown was, when the country was open, then I went to rent an office there in a very shady building called the Sangro House. So in that building, I was renting just one room. My neighbor in the other office was an Indian lady who used to practice some rituals there. And while I'm busy with my clients, the smoke would come
through the door.
And, but besides that, the building had a lot of problems. There were cockroaches. While we were busy consulting with a client, cockroaches would just pass by. I remember this other day, a client came in for consultation on an estate matter. So while we were talking, cockroaches were passing by. He started to look around and he never came back. So that's how I lost that client. And remember, that money which he was supposed to pay was valuable and it was going to make a very huge impact in the office. But that never discouraged me because
from soldiering on.
Yes, I knew that I'm going somewhere. And I knew that that was just the beginning of a very good journey. So I must not be a crybaby. I must work hard to fulfill this dream. From there, I went to a very dignified building. From that building, I went to a top-notch building. So those are my humble beginnings.
So from a household with a laptop, borrowed laptop, into a dignified building. I think young people of the country can learn a lot.
Correct.
Can learn a lot. How does it feel to be the Secretary General of the biggest opposition party within a short space of time? And also, how does it feel for you having to be likened to the same level as Ubabu Walter Sisulu, who became the Secretary General of the African National Congress in 1949 at the age of 37, having been born in 1912-18 May. So how does it feel for yourself, the responsibility that comes with being it? Can you believe it?
Now that it's happening, I can believe it. But it's a huge challenge coming with a huge responsibility, and it's a humbling challenge. It's a privilege. I always say that in order for you to be not entitled into positions of leadership, you must understand a responsibility, a leadership responsibility as a privilege, not as your right. Yeah, because I think the MK party was voted for by more than 2 million people.
Yes.
Now, when you get a privilege to lead, you must really view that as a privilege in an actual sense of the word. So it's a privilege that you must never belittle, and that you must never subvert, that you must always treat with the highest level of respect, because this is a newborn child. This is an alternative force of the left. This is a disciplined force of the left. This is the voice of the voiceless. This is the machinery of the people. This is the people's camp.
Yes.
So it's not your organization. Your organization is not your grandfather's farm. It's not your mother's pizza shop.
It's not your inheritance.
It's not your inheritance. At some point, you must hand over this thing to other people. And when you hand it over, you must hand over a valuable asset.
Yes.
Which is very intact. And you must leave history that he handed over a very solid organization. So that even those who come in after you, will have a huge challenge. So it's about the ability of rising to the occasion. And when you are given a position of leadership, you must be humble and treat people with respect and not come with arrogance. That is a mistake which is done by many clowns who are leading, full of arrogance. Even when they speak to people, it's like you are addressing,
Children.
your worker there in your farm. Treat people with respect. Where you've got to be firm, you must be firm. Where you've got to enforce discipline, you must do such. But don't be an unreasonable person who speaks anyhow with other people, who shouts at other people and so on. So, because if you do that, we always see from other people who imitate arrogant people in their organizations. And you get worried to say, hey, is inheriting a very wrong character, which is not supposed to be ordinary in our political space. But because it's done by their leaders, he thinks it's a good
correct way to go.
It's a correct way to go. So you must know that you are a figure of some kind in your own organization. There are people who are going to invade. There are people who are going to emulate you. So if you have a terrible character, the likelihood is that that character can spread
multiply.
Across. Yes, it will multiply. So it's a huge challenge that you must rise to. And there must be no excuses. Once you are given a responsibility, you can't say, no, I don't have experience. I'm new in this thing.
Yes.
So I was not ready for it.
Yeah.
The task is there now. Do it. You availed yourself. you said, no, I can do it. Do it. Yeah.
Yabona nje kukhona ivideo yakade trend ey'nsukwini ey'nkundleni zokuxhumana.
Yeah.
Inama-comment amaningi amahle. Abantu uyakhuluma nje bashaya ngisho ihlombe kade usegoli la ukhuluma namalunga eqembu umbutho wabantu umkhonto. Kwakhona i-comment eyodwa.
Yes.
Umuntu uthi lapha, hayi,
yeah,
noShivambu unobhala waqoshwa waqala kanje. Nalo usedleleni kahlala isikhathi eside.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. Is it a fair comparison, first and foremost, to compare you with umfowethu uFloyd Shivambu, but secondly, uzohlala noma uzoxoshwa?
No. Let me start with the first one. It's not a fair comparison. Look, I once wrote something on Facebook. It's not a secret. I can even say it to Floyd. Floyd is full of himself. I said to comrades upon his arrival that this one is not going to last here because he does not understand the MK party. That's number one.
Yeah.
When you lead the MK party, you need to understand its character.
Yeah.
And the character of comrades that you are leading.
In its rank and file.
Yes. Many people who are leading here are coming from political parties. And the reason why they left those political parties is because they were irritated by arrogance. Floyd is arrogant, that's number one. Number two, he is full of himself. It's even difficult for him to greet people. He can pass you. When he knows you, he can just pass you as if you are a stranger to him. What this comrade was saying, that comrade from Mpumalanga, is true. Leave her character. The other one was
I remember something now.
Because she's another problematic individual. But I'm saying what she was saying about Floyd is true. That is why even when he established Maibuye, I said people are going to come in numbers. They will come back because some just see him speaking there. They don't know him. They've never interacted with him. That's not how you behave as a leader. I always say there is one or two things. In fact, there are many things which we must learn from President Zuma. The character speaks volumes.
Outside of his ideological advancement.
Correct. The character is outstanding. I've never seen, and I'm not exaggerating, but I've never seen a humble person, a humble leader, with so much rich credentials like President Zuma. So you can't compare me with Floyd. From that aspect, yeah, we were just starting there before we go to
academically and otherwise.
Yeah. So our character, my character and his character are completely different.
Yes.
So the guy has got capacity that you cannot take away from him. He can articulate, he can speak the ideology, Marxism and Leninism, but politics should not end there.
Yes.
They go beyond. They are more deeper than that. Relating with the masses is the most critical aspect in politics, because these are the people that you are leading. So you must be accessible to them.
Yes.
And they must be comfortable with you. People should not shake when you are coming there and say, hey, the leader is coming.
Yes.
When they see you, they must see a possible solution to say, hey, the problem that we are under now might be solved because our leader is now coming. So now when you want to behave like a bully in a China shop, we are not going to enjoy support from the very same people that you are leading.
You seek to lead,
Number two, he didn't understand the MK party, that this organization was never formed through the normal methods of forming political parties. The people, an announcement was made here, and the people came in numbers out of frustrations, and some threw in their monies. They funded their own revolution.
Yes.
So if you will come big-headed here, after that has transpired, you'll have a problem, because people are going to say, who is this one now?
Where does he come from?
Where does he come from? Because we come a long way with this party. He was nowhere, and he comes with arrogance. People don't have a problem with people who join us after the elections and so on, because we're a party. Quantitatively, we must grow upward. But the problem becomes when you come with arrogance, because arrogance is what made many of us to leave the parties from which we come
from. Yes.
Yeah. So to respond directly to your question, I always say the leadership. I know some people always attribute this to an individual. They always say President Zuma. If I can tell you how the recent SG, I want to find a better word. I don't want to use removed. But if I can tell you how
redeployed,
he was redeployed,
reconfigured,
or he redeployed. So you won't, you'll be surprised. President Zuma is an accessible man, engageable. He takes advices.
Yes,
I can tell you, it has never happened that President Zuma would wake up and say, I'm taking this decision without any pre-discussion.
Proper engagement.
Yes. He engages in engagement, in thorough, and he takes his time. Even those who are frustrated give up and say, no, this man doesn't want to take decisions and so on. But ultimately, when he realizes that a need arises for the best interest of the organization, for a decision to be taken, he takes it ultimately. So it's not President Zuma's unilateral decision. So when a collective has dissected your performance in office and arrived to a conclusion that we think, we need a certain character, which is not necessarily yours, you can't say no.
Okay.
I'm saying my removal can only be triggered by that dissection.
Yes.
And which has been informed by the wisdom of a collective.
Yes.
It cannot be triggered by these other things which have attributed to Floyd. Because some of us really, wanted Floyd to go because of the character that he has. He has
First and foremost.
yeah, it was not a good character for the MK party. And I thought some EFF members
We're
were
exaggerating.
exaggerating. You know, when he left, I was receiving calls from MPs. They are MPs with whom we speak there in Cape Town. We are getting along with them. So they were calling, they were celebrating. They were celebrating literally.
In a literal sense, yeah.
They were saying, guys, thanks for taking this man, but you will regret within a month. I thought it was bitterness. I said to them, oh, but this guy has been an intellectual asset of your organization. He built your policies, he developed your policies, the constitution and your systems. So now you act as though you are excited by his departure. I was in denial.
It's an act to acting.
Yeah, I was in denial, literally. And then when I experienced his conduct, then I said, yo, this is
this is what they were talking about.
Yeah, this is what they were talking about.
Uzoqoshwa. Abanye bathi uzoqoshwa uyahamba.
Yeah.
Kuzongena omunye unobhala.
Yeah.
Unjani uyalala ebusuku ukhumbule eParliament uthukile.
No, you should not be married to positions. When you get fired, just take your bags and go. And focus on new responsibilities that you are given. If they fire you for wrong reasons, ultimately they will realize that we made a mistake here.
Mistake, yes.
Your contribution must speak for itself. So I'm not worried at all. I've been there, by the way, in Parliament for quite some time. And I've always been avoiding, even in Parliament. I was appointed to the Whip Party. And then I resigned.
Okay.
From the Whip Party. I was enjoying being an ordinary MP. So even at home, you know, when some people, they are very problematic people who, when they are in their villages, wards, regions, become problematic and divisive. You will never hear such stories about me. I've never. I always told. Yes, I always told comrades, even in my region, that don't call me when you are discussing squabbles. Call me for organizational programs. If you want me to come and assist, to assist you as a collective, I will gladly avail myself. But if you call me for squabbles or for caucuses,
count me out.
Factional caucuses, I won't avail myself. Yeah. So even in the province, the provincial leadership can tell you I've never been involved in any factional battle. Abo Maqengwane, Abo Mpungose, have been there.
Yes.
Even when factionalism was heated, there was on steroids during the time of people that I'm not going to mention.
Yes.
In KZN, were never found
part of it
in any factional battles. It is because some of us understand how complex this task that we were given by President Zuma is. The task of one being an MK member.
Yes.
It carries a huge burden. But secondly, the task of being a leader comes with a huge responsibility. There in Parliament, I was serving in the Justice Portfolio Committees and the Constitutional Review Committee before this ad hoc thing. So we were doing exceptionally well in terms of the reactions. That's where we were found. We're not found in squabbles. You can trace us. You will never find. That is why even now when I came in as the SG, I made a proposition that to reduce problems for us and concocted criticisms which are unconventional.
Yes,
we must allow people to have a say. Because if you say to people who are creating who are establishing an election structure, give us names. You are not going to vote, but out of a revolutionary consensus, you allow them to speak amongst themselves, to engage each other. Where will they blame you? Because you never imposed any name.
Any name on them, yes.
You just said bring names. Because I knew that if I use the old modus operandi, I will be empowering political detractors,
yes,
who would want to use, even if the process was genuine, but who would want to use that process against me to say he has imposed his own people. Then I said, let's apply this. And I know some are sweating because they don't know where to find the wrongdoing, where to
in
find
the process in itself.
Yeah, in the process. There is nowhere where you can blame me because there are guidelines which were adopted by the national officials.
Yes.
They explain how the process should unfold. After those guidelines, the people speak for themselves. We're not electing. I know some are trying to weaponize some of our leaders by saying, but we said we don't want elections.
Conferences, yes.
Yeah. No, it's not. Discussing. Because we're discussing there's no ballot paper. Discussing about, if here we say Khanyile versus Xolani, who can help us with this task? Which method do you prefer between a method of one individual who would come and say, I prefer Khanyile? And sometimes I would prefer Khanyile versus 10 people.
Yes.
But because of the power that I have, Khanyile would then become a leader.
Yes.
And a method of saying, guys, speak amongst yourselves. And what you have agreed upon will be the final determination. So you want people to be part of this revolution because an outcry out there, which has long been standing, is that people whom we don't know
just mushroom.
They get parachuted. Yeah. So I gosh, really, it will be difficult because I know even now some people are desperately trying to find wrongdoings, and some are even concocting and so on. But I'm an old politician, so I know how to protect myself. And with regards to money issues, because that's another aspect we cannot,
which is very important.
Yes, you cannot avoid. I was running a law firm. I did a lot of RAF cases, so I was keeping monies there in the trust account for my clients.
Yes.
Not even on a single day where I was accused of misappropriating monies of clients. So I'm a person who knows how to be disciplined. Yeah. And I'm self-sufficient. So there is no way where I can say or think of abusing the coffers of the organization for my personal gains. Yeah. Because it's one of the issues, by the way, which contribute to the downfall of many communities.
Many leaders, yes. Yeah. No, I think that's clear. So tell me about the process, the importance of the process you have started. Like you have presided over the regional consultative program in Johannesburg, and we've seen leaders across the country. What is the importance of the process vis-a-vis the readiness of elections? Why is the process important for us and the elections as the party? But also you have at least covered one of the questions I had, that it's not your own process as an individual that me, SG, I'm saying do this. It's a collective process which was agreed upon, and now it's being enrolled, of course, spearheaded by you as the chief volunteer at a administrative level. So what is it that is so important about the adherence to this process and the process in itself vis-a-vis the election outcome?
Yeah. When we were appointed for this position, on the following day, I received a moria of complaints from different provinces, and it never ended. Even now, I'm still receiving such complaints. People are complaining about the state of the organization
Okay.
in their respective regions, branches, sub-regions,
Okay.
and so on and so forth. So I then realized, and some are even saying there has never been any visit of any kind by any leadership.
Yeah.
We are just on our own here.
Yeah.
And if we go into the election campaigns with this spirit, we are likely to lose. So the immediate task now is to make swift interventions.
Yes.
And we made a thorough assessment of the state of the organization. And we presented in the officials meeting a diagnostic report, which was making that a thorough assessment. Because for you to suggest a cure for a particular sickness,
yes,
you must first diagnose, so that you become comprehensive in your approach
yes,
and responsive adequately.
Yeah.
So we made that thorough assessment. And then we thought that as an immediate intervention, these are the things that need to be considered. And the first thing is that the structures of our organization, to a certain extent, are dysfunctional. But two,
yes,
they are a bone of contention. They are a source of problems across the country. People are always queuing in Kandla to complain about these structures. They wrote a moria of letters to complain about these structures. So that might have been a consequence of the fact that many people just accepted a responsibility to lead without a full comprehension
of what is expected of them.
Yes. A full comprehension of the complexity of the task at hand.
Yeah.
So they took it as a normal and as an ordinary task that I know you just occupy a position of leadership and sleep. Whereas that is not the case. When you become a branch secretary, you involve yourself in service delivery concerns and be the voice of the people on the ground. So we've got permanent problems at a branch level. So while you have those problems, then you have the leadership that doesn't know whether it is coming or going.
Yes.
So then it means you must intervene there if really you like this organization. People thought this thing is about taking a position, and then when you have taken that position on weekends, you visit Tungandla. You come back on Monday, you send voice notes. After
WhatsApp
sending
groups.
voice notes, you go to Gandla voice note. So, no, this is a very complex responsibility. So we then said there is a need from a qualitative point of view to build this thing to build a strong foundation first.
Yes.
And we are not going to achieve this between now and the elections. The first thing that we must cement now is our approach to the election campaigns, so that we arrive then being a stable,
as a solid organization.
yes, and a solid organization.
Yeah.
And then after, we engage in a thorough process of building a solid rock and a solid organization, which we will do. But for now, let's focus on this responsibility. I don't know why people are fighting a lot about these structures, because they are just election structures. And we are going to demand reports from these structures.
If you fail to deliver,
yes,
you are released.
We're busy now with reporting mechanisms.
Okay.
So we are not going to enjoy a title here of being called the convener and so on. And I know that some ambitions are triggered by the fact that we're approaching the local government elections. Some are already seeing themselves as councillors,
Mayors.
and mayors, and so on. Which should not be the case, because that is not what the revolution is about. The revolution is about liberating our people. So that is why we have established this process following this approach. Then, after the elections, we go back to branches now, and we are not going to rush the process of building.
Yes.
It's not going to be a tick box exercise like what we see on the other side of the fence. People who say, yeah, you know, they once celebrated the membership, which is more than 1 million. In some branches, you go there and find a membership of 2,000 people. But when they prepare for their PGMs, they don't correct. They just collect signatures,
signature campaign,
and ID copies. Now you ask yourself, where are these people now that they are accounting for? And you see, when you do that, you are just running, carrying a knife and pointing it
unto
towards
yourself.
you.
Yes.
Yeah, because you are being dishonest to yourself, because you have got imaginary growth. It's not there. You relax because you end up believing in your own lies,
in your own propaganda.
Yeah. You relax saying, no, I've got a
million,
membership.
more than billion.
When it's not there. When you know that it's not there. Because you are not engaging in a thorough recruitment process. Because that's where you must start. And a thorough recruitment process involves political education.
Yes.
People must get into this thing knowing what is it that they engage with, knowing the immediate task, knowing the revolutionary responsibility. So you don't just say a sign and you know, some call and ask for ID numbers and fill in forms on behalf of other people and submit and claim to have a membership that is growing. And you find out, you find that half or 80% of that, 30% of that membership is not even going to vote for you. Some don't even know that they are members.
That they are in your database
of your organization. But in the public domain, you are creating an impression that you have
a big
huge
movement.
Yeah, you are a big organization. So we're trying to avoid all those mistakes, because history and the records are there to show us that that methodology is not working. Instead, it is suicidal, because it makes you to believe in your own lies and you organize yourself according to non-existing
numbers,
imaginations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I think, Nopala, it can also, just for the benefit of all leaders and members of the party, the importance of stages in the movement, that there's a difference between being a supporter,
correct,
then you being transformed into becoming a member, then a member, an activist, then activist, a cadre, then cadre, a stalwart. I don't know whether I'm still putting it in the correct stages, but if you can explain that process for the benefit, so that we understand what is a role,
correct,
what is the difference between just a supporter of the movement and a member of a movement.
Because we usually see supporters in stadiums.
Yes.
When we have rallies, those are people who don't necessarily engage themselves with the day-to-day activism
of the movement.
It's people who just love us at a distance. Maybe they get inspired, by how we articulate things, even by our T-shirts, even by our logos, songs, and slogans. But a member is somebody who understands the principles and values of the organization. And because remember, for you to be a member, you take an oath.
An oath is.
Yeah, so you abide yourself. So you become a part of the livelihood. You are part of the family.
Yes.
If you are a member. And there are things which you can do, and there are things which you cannot do. Unfortunately, nowadays, it appears as though there is no difference between the two, when actually there is a difference. I was saying even the conduct of a leader now cannot be similar to a conduct of a member. We we're arguing with other comrades. I was saying, one comrade was saying it's correct. There's it doesn't see a problem with a person who goes to a shipping wearing our regalia.
Yes.
And I was saying, no, it's wrong, especially when you're a leader, because we must inspire the generation that is coming after us.
Yes.
So when they see that our leaders are drunkards, they are party animals, they go there and dance until the morning.
So then go to meetings of the organization.
And go to meetings of the. So what are we teaching society? It's a very bad lesson, because leadership goes with morality as well.
Okay.
And ethics. So you must behave differently if you are a leader. Even if you are somebody who likes socializing, you must socialize to a certain extent. You must have limits.
You carry different responsibility.
Yeah, you can't be found in Kakasin from the evening till the morning while you are a leader, wearing our own regalia.
Out.
That is very wrong. At least you must take off our regalia and go there as an individual, so that when people see you, will see Bonkos Kanyile, not a leader of the MK party. They will say, oh, this is Bonelo Lumval. They won't say this is the SG, even when they know, because I'm wearing my own outfit.
Can you divorce yourself from the position you are leading? Can you say now?
No, you can't. But I'm dealing with a perception now.
Okay.
At least
it's a level of perception.
Yeah, we must manage the perception at least. Ideally, you shouldn't even be going to those places.
Yes.
But I'm saying, because we are living in this kind of a society, and you are not living in an island.
Yes.
You are living amongst the people. So sometimes, you would want to go there just to have fun and so on.
Yes.
Don't wear these things just to deal with the perception. Yeah, but because some don't even know you. But the minute
they see the logo, they ask, who is this one?
Who is this one? And some who know you tell that, hey, this is an MK party leader. Yeah. So even if you are a fan of SAP, but you must have a way of managing yourself. Yeah.
Aloyehle ikhipha zomkhodo umkhodo awukhishwa uphuzo nelidakayo ukuze sakhe isizwe sakithi. Okay, no bhala mhlambe umuntu would also want to engage on the MK deploys in Gauteng, vis-a-vis not supporting the budget which was put to the fore. Because others are making so many insinuations. I was listening to the radio after that day that it might even have some negative effects on the service delivery, and that what impact does it have not supporting the budget? So politically, what does it mean? And administratively, what does it mean?
Okay. Let me start with the political aspect. My recollection is that we arrived to a conclusion of not supporting the budget out of dissecting our relationship with the ANC.
Yes.
And the attitude of the Secretary General, Balula.
Yes.
Who just decided to be childish. He just went to the media. Our DP wrote a letter to him requesting for a bilateral meeting to discuss the KZN issue. Balula then decided to take the matter to the media unprovoked. And he went there and mischaracterized the MK party
as a movement.
Yeah, he said we are not pro-left and so on. So we then said during our discussions that we are a unitary organization. We are not a federation of provinces. It is not prudent and scrupulous to treat different provinces as if, to treat our provinces as if we are not the same structure.
Yes.
We can't watch our comrades being suffocated in KZN while we are mingling with the same people here in Gauteng. So we need to have a sit down here and raise all the grievances here in Gauteng.
Yes.
And see if we can have a way forward. So we did that. We took that direction, being considerate of the stance of the Premier of Gauteng.
Yes.
Which is commendable.
Yes.
The stance of defying the white establishment.
Yes. Yes.
Because he told them that I'm not going to work with the TA. And so they started to not treat him fairly after that stance. So we said we sympathize with him, but the fact of the matter is that he belongs to the ANC. It's so unfortunate that there are these dynamics of theirs which are informed by the incoming National Conference.
Yes.
Because the problem with Balula now is that he is not sober. He's highly intoxicated. And
by conference dynamics.
Yeah, by conference dynamics. And he approaches things being informed by what he wants to achieve from a factional point of view.
And his availability.
And his availability. So Balula does not use ideology as his tools of analysis now and guide to action. He uses a conference as a tool of analysis. So that is why he behaves the manner in which he behaves. He's ready to compromise objectivity and his organization. Because with the MK and the EFF, EFF and the ANC, all these aspirations of black people that we always desire to fulfill can be fulfilled with ease.
The blink of an eye.
Yeah, because we will be having a 2/3 majority there in Parliament. When we talk about the restoration of the land, we can do it with ease. Because we always say the stumbling block now is the lack of numbers. Now, black parties are there. Why are we not uniting on issues of national importance? And it's because the ANC has been highly hijacked by counter-revolutionary forces. It has been highly hijacked by the white establishment, by the Ruperts and others. That is why I always say it's difficult to unite with the ANC now and the IFP, because the IFP is funded by the Oppenheimers, who are driven by profit-making interests. And they see us as a threat to that. So and it's them who are calling the shots.
Yes.
They will never allow the IFP to leave that GNU. That's why the IFP, they cry the loudest when there's a threat towards the GNU. They do everything in their power to rescue the GNU. They enjoy that setup.
Yes.
Yeah, they enjoy it the most. And the ANC on the other hand is under the stewardship of a puppet of the white establishment, of an ice boy of Rupert.
Of the Stellenbosch Mafia.
Yeah, of the Stellenbosch Mafia. So it's a determination of funders and of capitalist interests.
Yeah.
So it's not easy unless you use a tactical approach to break that. And it was made for that purpose, because the results which gave birth to the current formation were properly designed. They thought when they were losing the elections, they sat down and they said, the only option now which can save us is the option of making sure that without the MK party in KZN, we are able to
Survive,
run the province. And for us to run the province, we need the IFP, because the IFP, us and the IFP, that is the ANC, us
Yes.
and the IFP, praise the same master. So there's no way that they can defy us. We'll just speak with the master to give instructions to the IFP. So that is the political point of view. But from an administrative point of view, when the budget has not passed, it means the government can't do anything.
Cannot
because,
operate.
Yeah, the powers are vested in the legislature.
Yes.
The powers rest in the authority. The powers rest in the authority of the legislature.
Yes.
In a case of the provincial government to pass budget. So if it has not been passed, then there's nothing you can do. You can't pay salaries. You can't
do anything.
Do anything. Absolutely. So everything will be on standstill. Those are the consequences.
Yeah, I think you've touched on the unity of black political parties. For someone who's a potential voter, who's an ordinary South African, who view the unity of black parties as some myth, what can you say on the importance of the unity and its possibility to have political parties uniting and coming into becoming a voting bloc?
No, I think firstly, it depends on our ability to suppress our egos. That's number one. Number two, it depends on our level of understanding of our task at hand as political parties. Who are our motive forces? Who do we seek to liberate? Who are the drivers of this revolution? If we understand that, then automatically we will arrive to a conclusion that we can no longer suspend a need for us to unite behind one revolutionary vision as political parties. And it's not a myth if you view it from that point of view. And it doesn't mean that people must leave their organizations.
Yes.
But it means on issues of national interest, on issues of wherein we have common grounds, we must be able to join hands and win together, because this is the issue of numbers. It's a game of numbers. That's why these funders and the imperialist forces always fund with the aim of fragmenting the black vote. They want to. They don't want us to be intact. They don't want us to be a majority, because they know that if we can be a majority, we can turn things around
this
for the benefit of the oppressed, for the benefit of the downtrodden, and for the benefit of the poor masses of our people. So it's not a myth. It just depends on how we understand the complexity of the assignment that we have as black parties, and our ability to suppress our egos. Because I think what becomes a threat to the possibility of uniting is our attachments to positions.
Yes.
Sometimes we think that this unity means you are not going to be an SG tomorrow. And even if it meant that, but if the unity speaks about the interest of black people, then why should we not lose our position? If it talks about that. So it's about sacrifices that we must make, and our ability to suppress our egos.
No, I think it's much clear, because we might I think we'll have another interview soon to deal with so many issues. Let me marry these two questions. How was the your personal a transit and transformation from being an MP, then coming into a position whereby now you are in charge as the Secretary General of the party, the SG? How has it been, the transitioning period, but also you were in a ad hoc committee in Parliament. What do you foresee as the end result of the ad hoc committee? Do you foresee it becoming another state capture where nothing happens to people who were being probed, and it becomes the waste of the taxpayers' money? Or do you say maybe this one might have the different end result? Because I think we've gotten the report that few have been arrested. What do you see?
No, let me start with the first one. The transition has not been difficult, to be quite honest. And I think part of what has made it to be not difficult is the fact that I've been part of the organization, I've been within the ranks. So I know it as I know myself. I know its problems, and I know which amicable solutions can be explored. So that is why I presented an organizational report during my first meeting with a diagnostic report, as if I've been there in the office for quite some time,
no, yeah.
whereas it was my first presentation. So the fact that I've been there, and the fact that I care about it like other people,
Yes.
and I want solutions to problems that we are currently faced with, has made things to be more easier for me.
Okay.
So it has not been a difficult transition. It has been a manageable transition,
Yes.
from one responsibility
To the other.
to another. And then with regards to the ad hoc committee, you see, if you make a thorough assessment, a comprehensive assessment of that ad hoc committee, I'm not exaggerating, and people who are sober in our society would agree with me, and some have been saying this. The only parties which have been consistent with in their approach and with fighting against the wrongfulness there in the ad hoc committee is the MK party.
Yeah,
and
true.
So to a certain extent, the Action SA.
Yes.
We've been fighting from day one until the last day. We won and lost some battles. For instance, we said we don't agree with the approach of writing questions to Cyril Ramaphosa, because he's going to answer to those questions while he's busy looking at his cows there in Palapala, or while he's busy drinking coffee. Whereas to ordinary members of society, you apply a different approach.
Yes.
You say they must come to Parliament. When they arrive in Parliament, you ask them questions, and in a very robust manner.
Yes.
So the impression that you already send out there from the word go is that Ramaphosa is being given a special treatment.
Yes.
By virtue of being the president. But secondly, you are missing an opportunity of testing all the allegations which implicate him in relation to the terms of reference.
Yes.
We are missing an opportunity of asking follow-up questions when he has, he has answered some questions here. I remember the answer about him being consulted by Senzo Mkhunu, the former Minister of Police. He said he was never consulted. Had he presented in the ad hoc committee,
yes,
orally, there are many follow-up questions that we're going to ask following that question. But we did not have that opportunity because we said to a man, these are the papers, sit there in your office.
Fill in the missing words.
In a conditioned office, answer in a manner in which you like, and then we will be fine.
Yeah.
Mr. President. That is what we said. Because the president, in terms of the parliamentary schedule, is always answerable to questions in Parliament.
Parliament, yes.
As part of the oversight mechanisms. So he goes there, I think, once in a quarter.
Yes.
To respond to questions, to both written and verbal
questions. Yes.
Now, this is an extraordinary setup, the ad hoc committee, with a very complex and huge task of probing allegations which were raised by General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Not only of probing, but of investigating. That's what the terms of reference are saying.
So yeah,
they are saying we must investigate. So how do you investigate a person to whom you have written questions and you are expecting written answers? Is that an investigation? And it ends there. It ends there. You don't even take matters further. Whereas to other ordinary members of society, you have applied a different approach.
Yes.
Even when they were presenting it there in the ad hoc committee, the secretary, because it was proposed by the ANC that we must write written questions. They were saying, no, this is the state president. So we must give him some respect. We need to write written questions and expect written responses. I then said, that is why in this country, the president will never be accountable for Phala Phala. It's because of that attitude.
Yes.
And it's because of that unnecessary special treatment that we're giving him. Completely unnecessary. He must be treated equally with other members of the society.
Yes.
Because there are many responses which we expected from him. There's a lot of clarification which he was supposed to give to assist our investigation. So because we've got people who are driven by party politics, who are partisan, we ended up taking the approach that we took.
Yes.
But history will always be on our side as the MK party because we did not agree with that. The second person whom we said he must be called is General Khan.
Yes.
Whose name has been raised by many, by a plethora of witnesses who appeared. Mkhwanazi himself, who's the main complainant, spoke about General Khan. But General Khan was defended by many political parties, the result of which he did not appear. So I'm just laying that as a foundation to a proposition that we are likely not to see tangible outcomes to this thing, because you can already sense from how we have conducted this thing that to a certain extent there has been a game of politics here. People have been playing some political football. So even when we engage in deliberations, people are going to play this political football because they engage in this thing with the intention of defending, not with the intention of establishing the truth. So it's not going to change if we failed to maintain objectivity and impartiality during the course of probing and interviews. Then how are we going to apply it when we're busy with deliberations and recommendations? Why not? So if you observe the attitude of the MK party from day one, and we've never been apologetic.
Since until
and we've never been apologetic of saying General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi must be protected because you must view General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi as a whistleblower. That is number one. The whistleblowers are dying unabated in this country.
Yes.
They don't have protection. Parliament has been telling us that they are busy with the bill, whistleblower protection bill, for quite some time. While whistleblowers are dying and they don't receive protection from government.
Yes.
Now, if you attack a policeman who chose to be brave, went to the media to expose the rot. You are not different from those who do not protect with whistleblowers. Because even if Mkwanazi's testimony has holes or has mistakes,
Yes.
that does not defeat the fact that he became brave under difficult circumstances. And in the face of that, and went to the media to expose the rot. And there are many things now which have been exposed because
of that act.
Yeah, because of his posture, which he espoused on the 6th of June or July last year. So that is commendable, because had he not done that, I'm telling you, Sbiya today will be the national commissioner.
Imagine.
Paul O'Sullivan will be calling the shots there at IPIT. This one, McBride, will be doing as he pleases at IPIT. So all those people have been exposed because of that. A lot has been exposed through this. So why do you attack such a person? Why do you attack such a person?
At whose interest are you attacking this person?
Yes, at whose interest? Because if he did mistakes, I always say mistakes are done even by magistrates. That is why matters sometimes are dismissed in the appeals court. Matters which have been presided over by a competent judge.
Capable judge.
Yeah, and then when it gets there, and then the other judge there, or in the High Court, the other justice says, Judge so-and-so erred in this. So why do you want to crucify a police officer for making a mistake? Some even say Mkwanazi committed a mistake, so he had motives and so on and so forth. Why are you only driven by negativity when you analyze Mkwanazi's testimony? Why don't you pick up all the elements of wrongdoing that we have picked up so far, following that testimony, and say what this guy has done is commendable. He has actually opened our eyes, and
as a country,
and he has actually dealt with a lot of wrongdoing. If you listen to all the allegations around the conduct of some SAPS members, you realize that this country has been in trouble. Some are accused of having stolen fridges, which are worth 3,000 rand. A whole divisional, a whole commissioner accused of taking a fridge. And Ket Matlala says, I bought, in fact, I gave Begitele 500,000 rand. I was even thinking of buying him a nice suit for a particular occasion. And I was calling him to parties when I was having a party in my house. No, not Begitele, Sbiya,
yes.
For parties that I would call him to come to my party and so on. When you trace this person, the allegation is that he is a hardcore criminal, but he is calling the shots
behind closed doors.
Yeah, so we are a mafia state, South Africa. So you are a mafia. You are a mafia state, but you want to crucify people for having made explosive revelations.
Yes.
Instead of assisting them, because some are just picking up minor things. They say Mkhwana said there is an involvement of the judiciary, and he has not provided evidence for such. And so what?
It's okay.
Yeah, because he was
doesn't
making
dispute the other.
correct. He was making an allegation, and it's our responsibility to investigate further. So if we are not finding evidence supporting such,
the report would clearly state.
Yes, and the problem is ours, because the guy made his task, and the rest was left with us, to take it further. So we can't. I'm very worried by some comments, which not that Mkhwanazi is my favorite. I don't even know the guy that much.
Yes.
But I'm saying the police of his caliber must be celebrated while they are still alive in this country. And we've got a responsibility as society to protect them against disruptive criticism.
No, I think you've said a mouthful, SG. Okwami nje ukubonga ithuba usinike lona ukuthi uhlale nathi la. Of course, I think there are many things that have that we're still going to engage as the time goes by. I think people would still want to hear about the proposed policy conference, or not even a proposed, the coming policy conference, because it's a standing resolution, unless reviewed or otherwise. So what is it to expect on that policy conference? But we can cover that as the time go by. Kunentombi nje enhle eyumkhonto la ngithe ngiza ngapha.
Yes.
Ngathi ngiyokhuluma nonobhala lapha ku-TV. Yathi ifuna ukwazi ngiyibuzele nje izwe libuka nayo izobuka. Yathi unobhala iyabona ngathi unobhala ushadile kodwa unobhala isithembu uyasithanda. Sekenzele iqeda isithe izobuka nje ithe ngoba ngizokhuluma nawe ngifuna ukukubuka isithembu uyasifuna unobhala.
I-problem there isithembu you won't take a unilateral decision. So if the head office says no,
yes,
you can't.
Okay.
So angithi kuthiwa kudala omkhulu bethu uma benqoma indlela ababe right ngayo omama bakudala, they usually say umama would choose the second wife for her husband. So lava manje they don't do that. So if you have got an idea of his team, you must address it with yeah. And if he says no, you can do. But for now, I'm okay with one partner. I'm okay with one partner. I must say that. The future is unknown.
Open discussion. KB sicela nje ukubonga kakhulu. Sophinde size futhi nokunye okuningi kwalapha ekhaya. Siyabonga. Thank you very much. Siyabonga.
Thank you. Sure.